So by looking at me, at least the upper part of me, you probably would not assume that there's anything inherently wrong. You probably would assume that I'm relatively healthy, but on numerous occasions that I've seen orthopedic doctors, I have been told that after looking at my imaging and then sitting down with me, that they're shocked that I'm not in a wheelchair. Verbatim, that's what I've heard from various doctors, is that they're shocked that I'm not in a wheelchair. That's quite a statement to make to a patient. We know doctors don't always have bedside manner, but that was very alluding to me in what the severity was, which I already knew, but it also was a reminder of why I fight so hard to stay mobile. And that's exactly what I do. Just because they said that, wow, you're pretty messed up, you should be in a wheelchair, you likely will be someday, I was not going to let that be the end of my story and just fall into that situation. And any of you that are watching this channel, if you have similar ailments and you've been told similar things, or if you are in a position where you're having to use tools to help you move around, I really feel for you. And I hope that some of what I share can maybe encourage you to find a way to fight through it if you have the means and ability. Because I think a lot of people can. I think there's plenty of people that may not be able to, but I think that through certain structures you can fight through a lot of that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But to revisit why doctors are telling me that I'm going to be in a wheelchair sometime in the future, or I should already be in one, I'm going to share a few more images on this video. This time, my previous videos, I shared my knee x-ray, which has shown you, and I'll show in the demonstration in particular, what that x-ray has shown you the most of is it has shown this guy right here, the groove that your kneecap sits in, to be not there. This is how it should be, nice and deep, a deep figure there. The kneecap sits inside of there well. As you see in my x-rays that I shared, this whole side doesn't even exist on my x-rays. This side doesn't really either, but that's the inside part. What matters is the lateral part. I'm sorry, the medial part. And that part is pretty much flat or edging downward, which means that when your kneecap is in the right place and you're bending your knee, that when there's nothing there to grab it, the kneecap kind of just goes like that. Maybe this happens to some of you guys. You feel that kind of thing happen. That is an example of what I just say to you right here. You see how it slides into place? The kneecap, you slide down, you bend your knee and it slides into place. That's called subluxing. That's not a full dislocation. Subluxing is when your kneecap slightly slides out and slides back in. So I don't have any of the system that holds your kneecap in place. In addition to that, here's a diagram of the lower back, our spine, tailbone, the lower lumbar. So basically all of these are the cushion discs of your spine. And in my situation, all of these are in a state of degeneration, and some are bulging or semi-herniating. And I also have what's called stenosis and hypertrophy. What stenosis refers to is a narrowing of the canal. So this is the back. This is if you were facing me from the front, you saw through me, this is what you would see. If you're looking through my back, this is the back of the spine, tailbone. And this in here is your nerve canal. Stenosis is when this canal that the nerves fit through, going all the way down, starts to narrow by also by hypertrophy with bone overgrowth, and things start tightening up, and then that puts pressure on the entire nerve system. What I also have, when I have between the bulging discs, these discs that are semi-bulging, what that's causing is it's causing these new nerves that are coming out of the spine that feed through the lower part of the body, through the whole body, through the lower part of the body in this instance. When the discs bulge, the bone spacing is pushed down, and then these nerves that are coming out of here, they get compressed. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of room on a sample like this, but even a little bit of pressure, a dot of pressure, can be a massive difference to anybody, because nerves are highly sensitive. They're nerves. If you do acupuncture and type of needling, if someone hits a nerve, like, you jolt, you know it. And why do you know it? Because nerves are sensitive. So the lightest bit of pressure on a nerve can cause all kinds of issues. It can cause pain, it can cause numbness, it can cause loss of use of certain things if it's severe enough. But so in my case, and I'll share some MRI results so you can see kind of what that looks like on an MRI, and maybe you can compare to yours. But that causes, that's led to, I have several nerves that are compressed down my spine, both the left side and the right side. And the diagram I don't have right now is of my shoulders, and you can't tell, like I said, by looking at me, you probably think, dude's in great shape. My shoulders, all of the tissue in the back part of my shoulders, the soft tissue, is completely shredded. So sometimes I'll be lifting my arm and my arm will just fall. Weird stuff. And back to the Ehlers-Danlos thing for a second, just to kind of talk about how throughout the body this thing gets. I don't know if you can notice in the videos, you probably do, but my left eye, the eyelid is droopy and has been getting a little more droopy by time. That is likely a symptom of Ehlers-Danlos affecting the strength and structure of my skin and my eyelid. There's actually a lot of people that have that problem with Ehlers-Danlos, where you'll see like a droopy eyelid or something like that because their skin structure is having some issues. Stretch marks are a common symptom of Ehlers-Danlos. Some can come from places that people expect, through getting big and maybe losing a lot of weight or doing heavy weightlifting. But sometimes they show up in the skin because your skin lacks the ability it needs to heal correctly and get back to form. So when you move and you stretch, it forms stretch marks, and that's also an Ehlers-Danlos symptom. But to backtrack, being told that you should be in a wheelchair already is a lot to take in, and being told that you are going to need an assisted living device or a wheelchair is hard. I think for anyone to hear a message like that, but I hope that if any of you have heard that thing, you're like me and you're not letting that dictate your life, and you're not going to let that dictate how you live your life, and hopefully you keep yourself mobile. So a real brief thing about me, and as I mentioned in future videos, I'll break down the specifics for you so that you know exactly, but I do a program literally every day that takes several hours of physical therapy or functional exercise training to keep myself not having to use a wheelchair or a walker or a cane. And it's one of those things when, if you have some degenerative issues and you don't want to be in a position where you have to use assisted devices and things like this, you've got to choose what you commit to. And I am committed to being functional and not having those limitations on me. So I start every day with some light indoor bicycling. I don't do heavy biking. My knees can't do it, but light biking is a great option for just getting some motion and lubrication in your knees and your hips, and thus your lower back. It just gets some movement going. But I start my day with that, followed by a large variety of stretches, a variety of low impact yoga moves, followed by specific functional exercise training for my body to keep it moving and functional, and all to the end of not letting my physical ailments define me and fighting through them. Now, with that all being said, my in particular journey to finding solutions isn't over. My life isn't going to be just doing these exercises and kind of waiting out for when I give way. We have amazing technology now and on the horizon for joint repairs in particular, and we're really fortunate for that. So I have a variety of knee specialists that I'm still meeting to talk about next steps. As people know from my previous videos, I did tibial tubercle osteotomies on my knees over the last 7 years, as well as medial patellofemoral ligament reconstructions. So back to the knee diagram, that's where we literally take this tendon and it gets moved more medial, so it makes it less likely that your kneecap is going to fall out of place. So they cut it off and they move it over to stabilize the kneecap so much so it doesn't slide out of place on you as easily. That's a big deal. And my video channel started with that kind of information. A lot of people were, when I was having these surgeries, I was looking for those videos and there was just nothing out there. And so what I wanted to do is start chronicling my road down that process, because I was looking for support. It didn't really exist. There's still very few people out there talking about this stuff, and even fewer people with the level of issues that someone like me has. So I really want this to be a journal of help for you guys who are going through these things, and I want to hear from you guys too. But they move this tendon and they move it more medial or inward. So instead of your kneecap tracking outward, it tracks inward. And as I mentioned, to me, that had some success in stabilizing my kneecaps, but only so much because I didn't have the structure that you need for it to be effective. Like if all this growth was here in good shape, that if it was just simply a misalignment of my knee structure and it was just slightly sliding out of place, the surgery probably would have been amazingly successful. And so please don't dismiss it as a surgery if you're considering it, or if you have someone considering it. You need to get thorough imaging and some good evaluation done. And even someone with my severe problems, it did have a level of success to it. So that was the major surgery that I had in the last few years on both of my legs with some success. It didn't help my chronic pain, unfortunately, because that's still damaged tissue, and the only way to solve that problem is getting rid of the damaged tissue, or trying to heal the damaged tissue, if possible. The studies on that are a little out right now. Right now, I feel like the most likely way to heal heavy damage like that is stem cell therapy. But there's a lot of data out there on stem cell therapy. We can talk more about that in the future too. They are not all created equal. And there's only certain types that can be effective. They're not quite guaranteed. They're not covered under insurance systems in the United States right now, but they do have great evidence for working if you do the right ones, the right kind of stem cells, the right method of treatment. So that's something we can visit. Given my age and severity, the likely outcome for me is going to be knee replacements with a combination of some knee relocating procedures, kneecap relocating procedures. So some things to help address alignment while also replacing the degenerated structure of my knee. And it's got to be a combined effort, and I'm gonna have to see some certain specialists that handle super rare abnormality cases to fix things like that. And so that's something that I'm going to be pursuing very soon, and you guys will hear the story about that as I go through it. But some things I want to share for right now as I end this video. If you deal with a lot of pain, if you are on the verge of needing an assisted device or something like that, and you're hoping to fight it off, some things that I'm very confident that you can do, and if you reach out and message me, and I'm happy to share more details with you. A fitness routine not heavy weightlifting is out for people like us. That's it's not that choice, but functional strength training that is controlled, much like physical therapy, but in certain ways, can be wildly helpful if you do it right and you stay committed. It's not a one and done thing. You've got to stay committed. And like in my case, I've been doing it nonstop for years now, and I do it every day to maintain certain things. Nutrition. Nutrition is a huge part of it. I eat an entirely anti-inflammatory diet, and I'm happy to share with you what that looks like as we go forward as well. Hi, great kitty. And dietary supplementation, specifically supplementation targeting anti-inflammation, or I should say targeting controlling inflammatory responses in the body, because dietary supplements cannot specifically be claimed to do anything that is anti-inflammatory. They can support in controlling inflammation in the body, so things like that, but also supplements that help joint health, connective tissue health is really important. So fitness, nutrition, and supplementation, all three really important categories for this. And as we've been talking on the screen, I've posted some videos of my MRIs so you can look at them and kind of see some of the symptoms and how they're identified. It's hard to read an MRI. It takes a while to look at them and be able to identify things, and I think doctors even struggle with it, and technicians even struggle with identifying things in the knee. But maybe you can look at these, if you've had MRIs, compare them to yours, see what you think they look like. See if you feel like it's got anything that you relate to. If you happen to have any of the similar symptoms to me, if you have EDS, if you have patella alta, if you have chronic instability, lumbar issues or stenosis, shoulder issues, this channel is for you guys. This channel is to talk about how to make the best of dealing with so many hard things. And I really think there's a way to do it. And this channel started with the idea of being a support just for knees, but we've certainly expanded to just being a support for people that have joint issues in general. There are absolutely ways to live a better life. And I want to help as much as I can sharing my stories. And I would love to hear also from you guys. So subscribe to the channel. Please feel free to message me. I respond to all messages that are sent to me, and share your story, share issues you have, ask questions. I would be more than happy to talk about whatever I can help with. And I'm going to keep on this journey and sharing the different things that I do that help and things that don't help. And I hope that you find this as valuable as I'm hoping it is, as I was hoping that I was able to, looking for when I started my journey and I just realized it wasn't out there. So I look forward to hearing from you guys, and you'll see more and more from me soon.